درود بر بینندگان عزیز تلویزیون ملی ایران. من هم دلم برای شما تنگ شده، ولی اجازه بدید که در برنامه امروز به دلایل خاصی که در منطقه و کشورمون هست و نگرانی هایی که ما داریم، مصاحبه‌های خودم رو با افراد بسیار مهمی که در آمریکا هستن، چه نظامی، چه مشاوران نظامی، چه سیاستمداران و در رتبه‌های بالا و افرادی که تخصص دارن در این کار ادامه میدیم. اجازه بدید که امروز من مهمان امروز رو به شما معرفی کنم و شما ببینید به زبان فارسی و انگلیسی خواهیم گفت که آقای ژنرال مک‌ایرنری که مهمان امروز ما هستند چه کسی هستند. با ما باشید.
Thomas G.Mcinerney is retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General. He is a command pilot with more than 4,100 flying hours, including 407 combat missions. As an Air Force controller during Vietnam War, in addition with Vietnam service, McInerney served overseas in NATO, Pacific Air Force, and as a commander of 11th Air Force in Alaska. Currently, he is Fox News contributor, and he is member of Iran Policy Committee. McInerney was born in 1936 in Maryland and graduated from Garden City, New York High School in 1955. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree from United States Military Academy in 1959 and master's degree in international relations from George Washington University in 1972. McInerney graduated from Armed Forces Staff College in 1970 and from National War College in 1973. His first operation assignment was in October 1961 with 476 Tactical Fighter Squadron flying F-104s. He took a part in Berlin and Cuban crisis in 1962, flying escort mission in West Berlin, air corridor, and escort reconnaissance mission over the Cuban Missile Crisis. In April 1963, he was one of the first forward air controller assigned in South Vietnam with Vietnamese Army Division. Upon graduation from National War College in July 1973, McInerney was assigned to 58th Tactical Fighter Training Wing in Luke Air Force Base. As a F-104 and F-5 Director of Operation, he was primarily responsible for F-104 training and F-5E military assistance program. In August 1974, he became the air attaché to U.S. Embassy in London. There he worked for 3 different ambassadors, assisting them in changing U.S. policy toward multi-role combat aircraft and increased standardization with European Aerospace and North Atlantic Treaty Organization Air Force.
ژنرال تاماس مک‌ایرنی ژنرال بازنشسته نیروی هوایی آمریکا. او فرمانده گروه پرواز نیروی هوایی آمریکاست با 4100 ساعت پرواز و 407 مأموریت جنگی و 164 پرواز با هواپیماهای F-4C در جنگ‌های ویتنام است. ژنرال تاماس مک‌ایرنی خدمات نظامی خود را در ناتو و پاسیفیک ایرفورس و نیروی هوایی 11 در آلاسکا انجام داده است. وی متولد 1937 در ایالات مریلند می باشد. دوران تحصیلات اولیه خود را در گاردن سیتی نیویورک سپری کرده و دارای لیسانس علوم در اکادمی نظامی آمریکا 1959 و فوق لیسانس خود را از دانشگاه واشنگتن در سال 1972 گرفته است. یعنی دانشگاه ملی جنگ آمریکا فارغ التحصیل شده است در سالهای 1973 مدیر اجرایی F-104 در آلمان و F-5E برای برنامه‌های نظامی بوده است. در ماه آگوست 1974 او مشاور سفارت آمریکا در لندن بود و ای با سفرای مختلف آمریکا همکاری و مشاورت داشته است. همچنین در تغییر نقش‌های گوناگون هواپیماهای جنگی دست داشته است. ژنرال مک تامس اینرنی در حال حاضر مشاور تلویزیون فاکس می باشد و امروز مهمان برنامه پیپل پاور است.
Welcome to Nitv, Lieutenant General McInerney. It is an honor to interview with you, sir, today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Please tell us a bit about your background in Air Force for the United States military, please.
Yes, I was a career fighter pilot, spent many years overseas in Europe as well as in the Pacific as a commander, senior military planner, was engaged in numerous operations with 4 tours of combat in Vietnam, did testing for many of our new weapon systems, and then was the Vice Commander-in-Chief of U.S. Air Forces in Europe, as well as the Commander in Alaskan Command, and retired as the number 3 man in the Air Force, called the Assistant Vice Chief of Staff.
I understand you have a significant background with NATO. Please share about your work with the ambassadors and U.S. policy on military aircraft, please.
Yes, one of my first assignments was to NATO during the Berlin crisis in 1961, in which I participated in operations that would have opened up the corridor should the Russians have decided to close the corridor. I then had follow-on assignments as an air attaché in London and a vice commander of a 111 wing in the United Kingdom, and then finally as a 3rd Air Force commander in the United Kingdom, which also had a NATO responsibility, and then finally as the vice commander-in-chief of all the U.S. Air Forces in Europe, stretching from Norway to Turkey.
General, on June 22nd, President Obama announced plan to withdraw troops from Afghanistan. What was your initial response to this announcement, sir?
Well, I was somewhat surprised. My concern is how he wants to withdraw and transfer. Clearly, the initial increment, I believe, is at the wrong time of the fighting season, and the final increment that would begin in September would be still in the middle of the fighting season. So I do not have as many problems of him withdrawing those forces. My biggest concern is how he does it, because we still have to defeat the radical Islamists over there that are creating so many problems in both Pakistan and Afghanistan. And that's very important that we do it properly.
You said about it, as Iran, let's say that as Iran has been having ongoing activities inside Afghanistan and across the border, how do you see the withdrawal and impacting the relationship between Iran and Afghanistan?
Well, clearly Iran is creating problems in both Iraq and Afghanistan. The Iranian leadership does not want to have peaceful solutions in either area. They want to create instability. They have not been helpful at all. The Iranian people, I think, understand this. And the mullahs are starting to, I believe, draw on some of their last breaths. President Ahmadinejad has many problems with the Supreme Leader Khamenei. They are in disagreement, but they are both still creating instability in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so the way we withdraw out of Afghanistan is very important. We should not leave an opening for the radical government that is currently running Iran.
I'm sure, General, you know there are the recent report that Iran is supporting extremist Shia group in Iraq, while the U.S. military is in process of drawing down presence there. How it is relationship between Iran and Iraq impacting security in the country, and what are the U.S. options to restore boots on the ground beyond the December of this year?
Well, I think the important thing is how we conduct the operations, not as much as how many boots are on the ground. First of all, we should have a tit-for-tat strategy, which means every time the Iranian government in either Iraq or Afghanistan creates problems by selling or distributing weapons, improvised explosive devices, etc., for every time one goes off in either Iraq or Afghanistan, one should go off in Iran. It should be done by indigenous Iranians, should be covert operations, and they should know that that is a tit-for-tat strategy. Every time they do something, then we're going to respond. By not responding and by accepting this, we are willfully asking and encouraging the Iranian government to take these offensive actions. So there are many things that we can do covertly to impact the Iranian government that they would understand, and I believe that they would cease and desist these activities in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Both administrations, the Bush and the Obama administration, have been very weak in this area, and all they have done is encourage the IRGC to take these actions. I deplore the U.S. response to these actions.
In decision to keep a U.S. military in Iraq for 2012 is up to the Iraqis. What is your interpretation of their positioning in light of the Iran's influence?
Well, I unfortunately am not confident that the Prime Minister al-Maliki is not a tool of the current Iranian government. I personally do not trust him. He has not exhibited the leadership that I think the Iraqi people deserve, and he does look like he is in contrivance of working closer to the Iranian government than with the U.S. government. That being said, they are going to have to make a decision pretty soon if they want a residual force of, say, 10,000 Americans, equivalent to one division, to stay there. Otherwise, I believe all our forces will be out of there by the 31st of December of this year. That could create a destabilizing impact in the region, which would not be good for Iraq.
It is a rumor that Obama may leave troops in Iraq if it is occurred. Could the same be possible for maintaining U.S. force in Afghanistan?
Well, remember, we're only talking of drawing 30,000 troops down in Afghanistan. We'll still have 70,000 plus the international security assistance forces, although some of the countries are talking about coming down. I think one of the most important things that we have to do in Afghanistan is we have to be far more aggressive than we have been in our strategy against the Taliban, both inside Afghanistan and in Pakistan. Remember, the Taliban were created by the Pakistani ISI, their security intelligence group. And if they don't continue to support them, then the Taliban will wither. We have to have that meeting with the Pakistanis and say, you must quit supporting them. And if you don't, then there'll be implications. I don't want to talk about them, but we must expect more out of our Pakistani ally, who we have given $10 billion since 9/11. And so we must hold the Pakistani government accountable.
What are some of the tactic of or resources which is U.S. forces may be best suited to take up the dealing with Iran's influence?
Well, I think what we have to do is work with the Iranian people covertly. They clearly demonstrated 2.5 years ago that they did not approve of the election of President Ahmadinejad and that it was a corrupt election. I think we need to take advantage of this situation. There is, quote, an Arab Spring, and I realize Iranians are Persian, but there is disruptions in Syria and other parts. We should encourage the Iranian people, who have a rich and treasured history and have been very, very important in the cultural world, that it is time that the people took their country back. Now is the time that they take their country back, and we have to be more proactive in that regard to assist them to do that in a whole host of ways, from economic to physical to tactics, a whole host of communications, of tools that we have available to us that could help Iranian people take their country back. That's very important. I do not want U.S. forces there. I want to enable the Iranian people to take their country back.
General, you brought it up. Let us tell you something. I hear it from Iranian, and a lot of them they said that we came in the street, millions, and we thought that America will support us. But when they started killing us, torturing us, we didn't see real serious thing or support for American people and American government. Don't you think this will be not good for us, for as American or American government, to see that the people that they are our friend? You know it. I'm sure you know it. Iranian people, they love the American people. This is a government hates American government or American people. But why, as you say it, Bush or Mr. Obama, why we don't support the Iranian? That is, Iran is a great country. People, they are 75 million and young people that dying to have a freedom, like us, like American, and they have a government that they choose. They run the government. They want to be friends with all the people in the world. Why the government, regardless that is Democrat or Republican, they don't understand it. We need real friends in that area. Why we did this?
Well, I think we made a major mistake. I mean, you pointed out the things that we did wrong, and I have strong disagreement with the American government for doing that. I think we were very weak. We had administrations and secretaries of state that did not understand the importance of taking the advantage when the Iranian people made the proper moves. We had a President Obama, who just completely ignored them, did not reach out and encourage them. So I am very, very disappointed in the American government, and I can understand why the Iranian people feel betrayed, because they were betrayed by the American government, and particularly by this President Obama at the time of that Green Revolution. We should have supported the Iranian people covertly, and we did not, and we betrayed them. I feel very, very bad about that.
Do you see that U.S. has won the war effort in Iraq and Afghanistan, that there has been impact against the Iran sponsorship, or that there is a way to go yet?
Well, there's a way to go yet. In the American terminology, we sometimes talk that the jury is still out. In other words, the jury has not come in with a decision. We certainly have set the conditions in Iraq where, if the Iraqi people want to be independent and to be free, that can happen. I'm very worried about that, particularly with the Iranian influence. The same thing goes in Afghanistan. We are setting the conditions, but Afghanistan is such a primitive country compared to Iraq or Iran that they have very tribal in nature. that they have a long, long way to go. That Kabul has never ruled the country. Iran, for instance, has had, under the Shah, Tehran ruled the country, and then when the mullahs took over, Tehran ruled the country. So you have that history in Iran that they are used to the centralized dictates of the capital. You had the same thing in Iraq with Saddam Hussein dominating the country of Iraq. Afghanistan has never had that. In addition, as I said earlier, what you have that's even more difficult is the Pakistanis are deliberately trying to destabilize Afghanistan. They have this xenophobic fear that India will be on their flank in the northwest there, and so that's why they created the Taliban. And somehow we have to take that logic away from them and let them know what the serious conditions are, because Pakistan as a country could implode itself. There are enough of the radicals in Pakistan that could destabilize that whole country. So it's very worrisome what's going on in Afghanistan and Pakistan.
General, you see that economy, the trouble that they have all over the world, especially in America, but we're paying and we're helping the Pakistanis military billion dollar. And how we can feel as Americans, you see, we're suffering now and we're paying money to them and they are helping the people that are going to kill our children and our soldiers, and they make a trouble for us and for all the people around the world, and especially in that area in the Middle East. Why we cannot talk seriously, as you said, and we tell to the army that you living on our money and you going against us? How we can solve this problem?
Well, that requires leadership. That requires a president that states it just as you stated it. And it's important that the American people get that point across. We are all having economic difficulties right now. And particularly with the United States at such a perilous condition, it is very important that we not waste our money on people that are eventually going to continue to fight us. So you are asking the right question. My answer is that they know that we're serious and that we have the right American leadership that conveys that we mean business.
What recommendation would you make concerning the role of the military aircraft in securing the regime, such as along the border of Iran?
Well, if I understand the question right, I would use the advantage that we have with air power to help secure that border and to oversee it such that to minimize the weapons that are moving from Iran into Afghanistan. That is something that we have got to put a stop to. There are ways to do it. I don't want to talk about it on the radio, but I'm involved with certain programs that we could do this. We just need to have the will to do that.
And yesterday, Iranian government was showing up again that they have a navy that's going to be in the Mediterranean Sea and all over the world. They're going to see us show the muscle, and Iranian people, they're thinking that what happens? Really, the world, they want to be this regime that, as you say it, that's going to make a trouble for this part of the world now can be the concerning that something like a superpower to nobody was going to stop this, and nobody get it seriously. And I'm afraid the Iranian people that are fighting for the freedom, finally they're going to pay with their blood that they are innocent. It's not their guilt. This is not government they choose. And really, I think America has to help. And I hope this, if Obama want to stay in office, has to understand it, what's the situation. And America will go into little by little get, I don't know, in the international situation to get, the weak. And so it's China going step by step forward and getting to everything as a money, as a power, and as everything. What we have to do really in here for Iranian people in a situation that would be dangerous for us and for all the friends that we have. Even Saudi Arabia is in danger now.
Well, I mean, the fact is we have to admit that President Obama is not going to do anything. I hate to say that, but he is not going to do anything. And he is going to appease President Ahmadinejad and the Supreme Leader. He will appease them. He has, from the very outstart, appeased these horrific leaders. And so, as discouraging as it must be, there are going to have to be other Americans that will stand up and will put the pressure and the responsibility of us to do the right things. Now, there's no question that this means nothing. We're not going to be able to do what we need to do right away. Radio shows like this are very important, that we continue to educate the people in Iran as well as the people in the United States. But I do not want to make our Iranian friends comfortable to think that this president is going to do something. He will not, and until we get rid of him, then we're not going to be able to solve this problem. And we need to bring in a president that can discuss this issue like you and I are talking about, on the danger of what the mullahs are doing, how they're destroying Iran and killing the Iranian people, how they're destabilizing the Middle East, and we need to focus on the threat that this Iranian government puts on the rest of the world. We need to be far more proactive on it. I'm not encouraging the Iranian people. I'm not trying to discourage them, but this is a very critical time in our history.
With regards to the U.S.-Iran policy, what are some of the measures that Washington can take in addressing the root of the psychological volatility for the regime? Well,
the Iranian people comprise about 51% Persian, 24% Azaris, 10% Kurds, I think, and the rest are mixtures of Turkomans, Arabs, etc. It is not a homogeneous population, so it has fissures in it, and it has regional, tribal interests that could be taken advantage of to create, with the right government and the right strategy with those leaders, to throw off this yoke of totalitarian leadership and authority that is choking the Iranian people. But as I said, this administration and the Bush administration previous to this have not recognized how important it is that we help the Iranian people take their country back. And I do not believe it is difficult to do, because the Iranian people want to, once they see that the American people are helping them.
You're right. I'm agree with you, sir. Concerning Iran's nuclear program, what connection do you see between their nuclear development, missile mobilization, and a stockpile?
Well, first of all, the nuclear development is well on the way to being complete. Now, whether it's weaponized or a missile is another question. But that's not the danger. The danger is that they can have prototype nuclear weapons that could be put into containers and could be shipped to the United States and other European cities. And everybody is looking for the nuclear test in which they fired off a missile. That requires a higher degree of technology. and it can take 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 years to develop. That's not the threat. The threat is the prototype nuclear weapon that can be used against Western nations. That is the threat, and that they clearly should know that if one nuclear weapon goes off in the United States would hold the Iranian government fully accountable.
What type of the missiles defense can protect the West from the extensive threat?
Well, we have missile defense systems that we're trying to put in right now. But a missile defense system is not a perfect system. And by the way, I don't worry about the missiles as much because missiles leave footprints. You know where the weapon came from. It's the weapon that you don't know where it came from. It just goes off. So that's why I'm not as worried about having a missile defense system as I am in being able to stop them from developing their nuclear program.
Concerning the upburst of the civilian resistance inside Iran, how do you see the U.S. could be strategically supportive of those who seek secular democracy, human rights protection, and would support a military coup?
Well, that's what we call covert actions. And there are ways that can be done. I don't want to talk about them in public, but we have people that know how to do this, and there are people in Iran that know how to do this. And let me just simply state, it can be done. We should resource it. We should put dollars on it, and we should be helping the Iranian people.
General, last question. Iran Youth Green Movement for Freedom, we see it, that in Arab countries is same thing. But Iranian, because you know, I was the first television that broadcast in Iran. This is a television that's with no help from American government or anyone. We're trying to this time to support the Iranian people, to tell them the truth with help of you people, and tell them the truth, what will happen, give them the hope that the force of the one country is the people that has to be. When the people, they want to be the secular, they want to be live together, they want to be peaceful for the world. They asking, so why the world didn't help us? Don't help us. They're killing us every day. They rape our children, they kill us, they hanging everybody, and we don't have a help. But what happens? They see it. They're asking me, for example, how you can tell us that America will going to support us when we see it in Arab movement, the secular movement or freedom movement that we see in Libya, in Syria, and in Egypt. We see it that really American, they're helping. All the world's helping. But when we came to the street and we thought, we put our life in our hand and we came to the street without the word, we see it that we are not thinking the way that our government thinks. We are not against all the world. We are not a human killer. We want to be peaceful. We want to live with them. We want to have the friendship with all the world. Why they didn't help us, but we see it they helping the other countries. What is the difference between us and Arab countries?
Well, that's a very good question. And I don't have the answer to that question. We didn't do much in Egypt, although it appears that we did. We did a lot of talking to their military, so the military didn't crack down. You can see we've done nothing in Syria. I think what they've done in Libya is just made a mess of it. They still can't tell what regime they are backing. And so in Bahrain, we wisely kept our hands out of it. But the important issue is, for the Iranian people, why didn't the American government help them during the Green Revolution? I don't have an answer for that. As I said, I'm ashamed to be an American because we did not help them. I'm ashamed of our president for not helping the Iranian people at a critical time in their history. And so America must make amends eventually to the Iranian people for failing to help them when they needed us most. And so, as I said, I think we have to wait for new leadership, and we have to challenge that leadership so we get a president that understands how important a peaceful Iran is to the region, a democratic Iran that the people want. It is the most important country over there in the region. And I don't have that answer to that very good question. As I said, I'm ashamed of our president, our administration, for not helping the Iranian people when we should have.
General Thomas McInerney, on behalf of the Iranian and our viewer, on behalf of the NITV, National Iranian Television in USA, appreciate it. It will be really, it was honored that I talked to you. I hope we have you more, and we, with the Iranian people, hear what you think and what a lot of the American big people and very great generals of America, they're thinking about Iran. It's not only politician. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, sir. دوستان عزیز، من فکر میکنم که آن چیزی که در این مدت هم خود من فکر میکردم، هم مردم ایران و جوانایی که در اینجا هستن دارن فکر میکنن و سوال میکردند، تا اونجایی که من تونستم سوال کردم. از شما خواهش میکنم اگر که شما میخواهید سوالایی رو با آمریکایی ها و کسانی که افرادی هستن که در سیاست آمریکا و افراد مهمی هستن که سیاست هستن دنیا رو میدونن، در هر گروهی، نظامی، سیاسی تا حتی پارلمان، اگر سوالهایی رو میخواهید بکنید، خواهش میکنم برای ما نامه بنویسید یا روی فیسبوک ما، روی وبسایت ما برای ما پیام بفرستید و ما در اونجایی که قدرت داشته باشیم و بتونیم این کار رو انجام میدیم. فکر میکنم مصاحبه امروز خیلی از سوالایی که شما خواستید یا خود من فکر میکردم و شماها گفته بودید مسائل مهمی بود که در میون گذاشتیم. تا فردای دیگر و مهمانی دیگر از همه شما تشکر میکنم. زنده باد ایران و زنده باد آزادی.